everyone. Welcome to Inside the Americas. Here's a look at what's coming up in today's show. As the impeachment investigation ramps up against Donald Trump, we'll take a look at how Republicans are reacting in the U.S. Then, Peru in political turmoil. The president closes Congress in what members of the opposition are calling a coup. And we'll look at America's vaping crisis that's left at least 12 dead and more than 800 people with lung disease. I'm Jeannie Godula. When you look back at U.S. history, just 3 American presidents have confronted the possibility that members of their own party would support their impeachment. Only one, Richard Nixon, left office because of it, when Republicans eventually abandoned him. Here is our France 24 look now at how Republicans today are reacting to the impeachment inquiry of Donald Trump.
Conspiracy theories, accusations of treason, and now ominous warnings about civil war have prompted condemnations of the U.S. president even within his own party. Adam Kinzinger, a Republican lawmaker in Illinois, said that the president's warning regarding the dangers of a potential civil war is beyond repugnant, marking just one out of many points of contention from within the House of Representatives. As the impeachment inquiry launched by the Democrats against Donald Trump gets underway, the question whether Trump used American diplomacy for personal political gain has sparked doubts for some Republicans.
There's just the question of, and I said this in my first reaction, which is if the President of the United States asks or presses the leader of a foreign country to carry out an investigation of a political nature, that's troubling. And I feel that.
If impeachment is approved in the House, the president would be tried in the Senate. He would need a 2/3 majority to be removed from office. For the time being, he appears to be able to count on a Republican majority to prevent conviction. But some Republicans, such as former Senator Jeff Flake, are urging others to turn their backs on Trump and vote based on their principles.
My fellow Republicans, it's time to risk your careers in favor of your principles. Whether you believe the president deserves impeachment, you know he does not deserve re-election.
Blake also mentioned that 35 senators are likely to support the impeachment should there be a vote in the Senate, but they remain a small minority. Polls suggest public support is growing for the inquiry. According to a recent survey, 47% of voters believe Trump should be removed from office, a big jump from last week's number of 37%.
This week in the U.S., a white police officer from Dallas, Texas, was found guilty in the death of her black neighbor. 1 year ago, off-duty officer Amber Geiger shot dead unarmed Botham Jean in his apartment, saying she mistakenly believed she was in her own apartment at the time. The 26-year-old's door was unlocked when she came in, and he was sitting eating a bowl of ice cream when Geiger shot him dead on his couch. Jean's death drew widespread attention in the case that some saw as the epitome of how whites see black bodies as a threat. Many African Americans were stunned then to hear the news, as convictions in similar cases fueling the Black Lives Matter movement have been few. Now, the vaping crisis in the United States has intensified, with more than 800 people now reported to have contracted a serious lung illness linked to the use of electronic cigarettes. So far, 12 deaths have been attributed to the disease. Authorities are now racing to get to the bottom of what exactly could be causing the problem before it gets worse. Anka Ula reports.
Across the United States, hundreds of people have been hospitalized with a mysterious lung disease. They all report the same symptoms.
When I first got here, it was like a baby bear was on my chest.
It hurt to take a really deep breath, and I knew something was wrong.
Cases like these have been reported in nearly every state. Half of the victims are under the age of 25. Some of the cases have been fatal. Though the exact compound that's making people sick is still unknown, authorities have found a common denominator in every case: electronic cigarette use. Scientists say one of the biggest challenges to getting to the bottom of the outbreak is how unregulated the vaping industry is. The composition of vaping liquids is very inconsistent, making it hard to pinpoint an exact compound that could be causing the lung illness.
The more flavors in an e-liquid, the more likely it was to be toxic. But there was also an incredible diversity of flavors. So in 150 e-liquids, we found about 200 different chemical constituents. And so really, the flavors in e-liquids really are all over the map.
To deal with the outbreak at the source, some states like New York and Washington have instated temporary bans on the sale of flavored vaping products. Massachusetts has gone even further, banning all of them. The Center for Disease Control, meanwhile, is increasingly focusing its investigation on products that contain THC, the psychoactive compound in marijuana. Recent studies found that more than 3/4 of those who got sick reported using e-cigarettes containing the compound.
Our picture of the week is this one of protesters in Peru. The country is now in political turmoil after President Martin Vizcarra dissolved Congress in what members of the opposition are calling a coup. The police and army have affirmed allegiance to him. Opposition MPs want to impeach him. Nick Rushworth explains.
Peru's current political crisis has been going on for months but turned into turmoil on Monday. The president declared elections for January and dissolved Congress. Martin Vizcarra said the opposition was blocking his efforts to tackle corruption.
I hope future generations understand the magnitude of the fight we're in against an endemic evil that has greatly harmed our country.
The opposition rejected that, saying he was staging a coup. They suspended him, swearing in Vice-President Mercedes Araoz as interim leader. Both Vizcarra and Araoz said they were running the country. The papers headlined that there was a total crisis. Peru had 2 presidents. Then on Tuesday, in further drama, Araoz quit as interim leader and vice president, calling for new elections. She said the judiciary should resolve the impasse.
The president's decision to dissolve Congress was a bad decision. There are others who think differently, so it is the Constitutional Court who should decide.
The army and police back Vizcarra, as do protesters.
Thank you to Mr. President Vizcarra. He's a courageous man, that's why we support him.
The winners here are the people, not Vizcarra. The people won, and the people have been urging for the Congress to close.
This is the worst political crisis in 2 decades in Peru. It coincides with a sharp slowdown in the economy and amid uncertainty over a number of important legal battles. The Constitutional Court is set to rule on whether to free Keiko Fujimori, the detained former first daughter who is awaiting trial for alleged corruption and whose party is the largest in parliament. The political arm wrestling is ongoing, with Congress on Friday planning to vote on a motion to dismiss President Vizcarra.
The world of music lost a major voice this week. American opera singer JESSYE Norman died, aged 74. Norman was a Grammy-winning global legend who showcased her majestic voice in performances around the world, including here in France.
Draped in a French flag, she sang the Marseillaise. At the bicentennial of the French Revolution in 1989. Revered worldwide, an opera legend, JESSYE Norman passed away Monday at the age of 74. Her towering soprano voice, once called a velvet wonder and a grand mansion of sound, wowed generations in her long acclaimed career. Born in segregationist Georgia in 1945, she began singing gospel at age 4, and then received a full scholarship to study music at Howard University. Her star rose in Europe with her opera debut in Berlin in 1969. She would then go on to wow audiences worldwide with performances at the Metropolitan Opera, a memorial for 9/11 victims, and 2 presidential inaugurations. At age 52, JESSYE Norman was the youngest person to ever receive a Kennedy Center honor. A multi-Grammy Award winner, she also received the French Légion d'honneur. She was one of the first African-American women to rise to fame in the classical music world. And she had a voice that, as Toni Morrison once said, could break your heart, but also heal your soul.
We'll leave you now with something completely different, a look at some rare footage of two grizzly bears embroiled in a vicious fight. This video went viral after the intense wildlife encounter was filmed on a Canadian highway and shared on social media. The incredible clip shows the violent brawl that brings the bears to the ground before they roll into a ditch. The footage ends with the bears chasing after each other and the bystander behind the camera clearly reevaluating her front row seat. We'll leave you with that. Thanks so much for watching this Inside the Americas. We'll see you again next time for all the news from north to south.